Hey there, ambitious entrepreneurs. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to explore exactly how to transform your raw, competitive financial drive into, well, disciplined, unshakable wealth building. If you've ever felt this intense, burning need to succeed entirely on your own terms, but then you find that exact same fiery energy is kind of blowing up your budget, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to decode the specific blueprint behind that drive and show you how to truly master it.
Let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. Be honest with yourself. Is your self-worth tied directly to your net worth? Now, for a lot of you, the answer is a resounding yes. And hey, that's totally okay. Tying your ego to your material achievements isn't necessarily a flaw. It's actually a direct result of a specific astrological and psychological profile that we're decoding today. Because your drive for financial success isn't just about, buying nice things. It is deeply wired right into your sense of self and your core need for absolute independence.
All right, here is our roadmap for the Explainer. We'll start with Section 1, the entrepreneur's financial intensity, followed by Mars meets the second house. Then we're going to hit emotion, ego, and impulsive spending, move into communication under pressure, and finally wrap up with channeling drive into discipline. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The entrepreneur's financial intensity, survival and security. You see, it is absolutely crucial to understand that for you, making money isn't just business, it's personal. You rarely feel emotionally neutral about your survival or your security. Whether this comes from early life family conflicts or just a deeply ingrained survival instinct, you literally view financial security as your ultimate armor against the world. Every single dollar you earn, that feels like a point on the board for your personal sovereignty.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mars meets the second house, the astrological profile. Let's break down the actual anatomy of this intense ambition by looking at a specific astrological intersection. We are looking at a placement called Mars in the second house. Now, even if you aren't an astrology expert, just think of this as a psychological framework that perfectly describes the highly driven and sometimes volatile modern entrepreneur.
And this brilliantly illustrates the inherent tension that you face every day. The second house is the domain of stability, wealth, and grounded values. But Mars represents aggression, fierce competition, anger, and raw drive. You are essentially forcing the volatile, action-oriented nature of Mars right into a stability-seeking domain. It's like trying to drive a Formula One race car through a quiet suburban neighborhood. The energy is massive, but man, it requires some incredible handling.
This intersection perfectly explains your intense ambition to earn money independently. And I mean through sheer hard work, fierce competition, and totally self-driven effort. You're definitely not the type to just sit around waiting for passive income or some inheritance to drop into your lap. To use a simple sports training analogy, you have zero desire to ride the bench and collect a championship ring just because of someone else's effort. No way. You want to be out on the court, aggressively driving to the net, taking the shots yourself. You need to prove your strength through total personal control of your resources.
Which brings us to Section 3, emotion, ego, and impulsive spending, the entrepreneur's trap. Now, we really need to explore the trap of this placement, specifically how your emotional highs directly impact your bank account. Because your drive is so fierce, the friction it creates can lead to some massive financial leaks if you aren't paying close attention.
So, the really crucial point here is that your ego is deeply linked to your visible independence. This makes your financial status a core part of your personal identity, and honestly, your defensiveness. When you feel successful, you want the whole world to see it. But when you feel challenged or insecure, well, you might be really tempted to use money as a shield to artificially inflate that sense of control.
And because of this deep emotional connection, you are highly vulnerable to quick, impulsive spending habits that get triggered by intense internal and external stressors. But here is exactly how you master it. Picture a young, ambitious founder who just lost a massive client pitch. Their very first instinct is to go lease a flashy luxury car just to physically feel successful again. But instead of letting emotional stress hijack their wallet, they catch the impulse. They take a pause. And instead, they focus on a non-material indicator of security. They spend the evening mapping out their expanding professional network to remind themselves of their actual, solid foundation. The urge passes, and the capital is saved.
Next up, Section 4, communication under pressure, speech as a weapon. Let's look at how this intense emotional pressure affects your daily interactions and high-stakes negotiations. Because just as your spending can be impulsive, so can your words.
Your strong attachment to your personal values makes you fiercely protective. So when you're challenged, your speech can easily turn into a weapon, sharp, direct, impatient. However, as an entrepreneur, this doesn't actually have to be a negative trait if you manage it right. In fact, focused, direct communication prevents impulsive financial agreements. Think about it. When you are super frustrated in a negotiation, instead of lashing out or stubbornly signing a bad deal just to prove a point, you can channel that sharpness into setting absolute, unshakable boundaries. You use your bold voice to protect your wealth, not jeopardize it.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, channeling drive into discipline, the mastery phase. This is the part where we turn that fiery Mars energy into stable, long-term growth in highly competitive markets.
With maturity, you can actually transform these volatile traits by following this simple 4-step progression. Earning independently, that's your offense. Controlling emotional spending, that is your defense. Going back to our sports analogy, mastering this is kind of like going through a grueling training camp. You can't just rely on explosive speed, you desperately need disciplined footwork. By consciously shifting your behavior from impulsive reactions to powerful financial discipline, you develop unshakable resilience.
And your real financial growth will come directly from channeling your natural courage into risk-taking and leadership in these highly competitive arenas, like business, sales, or sports. When you face setbacks here, you don't retreat. Consider this real-world example. An entrepreneur discovered a rival had just launched a cheaper, copycat version of their product. Now, instead of getting furious and impulsively blowing their cash reserves on retaliatory attack ads, they took a breath. They channeled that fierce competitive frustration directly into their sales team, directing an intensely focused, bold outreach campaign. And the result? They actually acquired their competitors' biggest wholesale accounts. That, right there, is how you turn raw, aggressive drive into disciplined wealth. To truly prove your strength, you absolutely must measure your financial progress through objective milestones. We're talking about your actual savings rate, your profit margins, and your investment returns, rather than just relying on the fleeting emotional high of a big purchase. Remember, your emotional intensity is not a weakness. It is a profound, raw drive that, with the right discipline, literally builds an empire.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. The energy is already inside you. That intense ambition, it's already there. The only variable left is your discipline. Take a hard look at your habits, identify those emotional triggers, and start tracking your true objective progress. So, how will you channel your raw competitive drive into unshakable financial discipline today?